Hi everyone, Dr. Liz here. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast. I'm glad you're here and hopefully it will help you with your journey along the way. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life. I built an award-winning company that was a household name in South Florida, then sold it, and then focused mainly on my private practice as a psychotherapist, helping people feel better. I specialize in hypnosis techniques for anxiety, sleep, emotional healing, some habit change. All of my experience gives you a unique perspective. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Dr. Liz Bonet, Bonet. Another way is to buy one of the downloads that I have for sale on my website, drlizhypnosis.com, DRLIZ hypnosis.com. I only have a couple up there, but they're really good ones. They've stood the test of time. And if you're looking for some free downloads, subscribe to the newsletter and you'll get free hypnosis downloads to reduce anxiety and to increase emotional stability. You can listen to those immediately. Start helping yourself today. But listen to this episode first before you do that. Another way to support the podcast is to rate and review it on iTunes or Spotify or wherever it is you're listening to it. That always helps me get found by people, which helps me help more people. So you're going to help me help more people. I'm going to wrap this up. Enjoy the episode, and I hope to see you back here soon. Hey everyone, Dr. Liz here. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a dog with dementia. And we're going to talk about thoughts and how much they can affect how we feel. Now, sometimes the harder the incident, the harder it is to get a hold of a thought that makes sense to you and helps you feel better. Not saying this is easy for anyone, but it is doable. And so we're going to start with the story about the dog. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I moved from South Florida up to Jacksonville, which is North Florida, in February of 2025. I'm recording this in May of 2026. And my husband and I decided to rent for a year to learn the area, make sure we want to stay, do all of that before we buy something. So we found a rental. And after we moved in, I noticed that there was a dog barking every night. This dog would start barking around 6-7 p.m. and bark for hours. It was the neighbor behind us. It took me a while to figure that out, but it was a neighbor behind us. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do here? There's a dog barking every single night. Very rare that I would hear this dog during the day, but nighttime would come, sunset would come, and the dog would start barking. Now, I had a dog that barked when I lived in South Florida, and it was actually a friend's dog that lived like 2 doors down from me. But this was a little dog, so it was like, the little yappy. Okay, I tend to have little dogs, not putting them down, but it's a more yappy bark. And this dog would start barking at 10 p.m. because my friend would go out to go drinking around 10 p.m. And she wouldn't get home till 2, 3 a.m. The dog would bark the whole time. I talked to her about, the situation. She wasn't willing to really do anything. So finally I got a sound trainer, one of those little sound trainers for dogs where you push a button and it makes this high pitched noise, and the dogs don't like it. So I would get up at 10 or 11 p.m., put my robe on, trot out the back door and hit that sound trainer through the fence of my friend's house. And the dog eventually stopped barking that way because the dog didn't like the sound. But for some reason, I didn't see this as a possibility with this new dog that barked. It was a big dog, it sounded like a big dog, like really low, woof, woof, woof. And it never occurred to me to use a sound trainer. I didn't have access to their backyard either. Like the other place was a townhouse, and it was pretty easy to just run over and shoot the sound trainer through the fence of my friend's house. This was not possible with this new place. It would be like trespassing if I did that. So maybe that's why it didn't occur to me at the time. But every night this dog would bark. This went on for months, and I even had another friend suggest calling the police, but for some reason I didn't really want to do that. I just, didn't. I saw the neighbors as pretty friendly, and I don't know, I didn't do it. But one night, my daughter and I are out there sort of chatting with the neighbors, and she says, "Oh, my dog has dementia. He's an old dog, and he has dementia." And we were like, "Oh, that's why he barks at night. He's sundowning. Humans with dementia sundown. The sun starts to set and they sort of lose it. And this is a known phenomenon called sunsetting, where they become agitated and it's very hard to calm them down. It's something about our circadian rhythms that happens when that transition is happening between day and night. Newborn babies, too. We used to call it the witching hour, because newborn babies will start to cry and cry and cry right around when the sun is setting. So I really think it's related to our circadian rhythm somehow. But once my daughter and I heard that this dog had dementia, our feelings about the barking changed. Now, both of us are sound sensitive, and she's autistic. I am not. But when they study autistic children, they'll play a sound in the distance, and a neurotypical child, their brain will adapt, so they won't register it as something that needs attention anymore. Autistic children will not. Their brain will continue to interpret that as an emergency, basically. Like, you got to do something about this. It does not adapt and sort of go into the distance and go away. I am sound sensitive. And so this is what happens to me with sound. That I'm never going to get used to that. And I know this. But once I heard that the dog had dementia, all I felt was compassion instead of annoyance. That's it. I was like, oh, that's Dementia Dog. And that's what we nicknamed the dog. We had never even seen the dog. I painted the dog like watercolors at one point when I was doing like a daily something from your environment. I painted it as like a big dog. And again, never seen this dog before. But we were like, okay, that's Dementia Dog. And then we just felt bad for him when he would start barking. This went on for a year. And just a couple weeks ago, both my daughter and I noticed, like, oh, the dog's not barking anymore. I wonder if he passed away. We had also seen a dog crate at the curb. And again, we're like, I wonder if the dog died. Actually, we haven't heard him barking for a while. And then another week or two go by, and I see the neighbor out. And I said, did your dog pass away? And she said, yes, he did. I really miss him. He was old. He was 15. That's really old for a dog, especially a big dog. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And instead of feeling like joy, like, oh my God, the barking has stopped, which is typically what I would feel, I just felt sad. That's it. Like, oh, she's lost her dog. And we don't hear Dementia Dog anymore barking at night. And just sadness and compassion. That's it. That's what came up for me. Now let's talk about how thoughts changed all of that. Because it was the exact same action. A dog was barking. What I made of it, what I told myself about it, made the difference between it driving me a little crazy at night, every night, and compassion, tolerance. What I told myself about the dog resulted in sadness when the dog passed away, and the sound stopped instead of like just joy and happiness when the sound stopped. Like, I actually miss hearing that dog sometimes, like a Dementia Dog barking at night. I know that sounds funny. I've been looking for houses to buy, and I looked at one that I really liked, and I heard a rooster next door. Now, this is in the middle of a city, okay? This is not like rural at all. But there was a rooster that crowed like twice while I was there. I was there about 30 minutes or so checking out the house. And I just sort of laughed because I knew, like, oh, in the past, I may not have even put an offer on that house because it's like, no, I'm not going to put up with a rooster. But now I'm like, I might really enjoy hearing that rooster every day crowing a little bit. Plus, I love chickens. Maybe they have chickens over there and fresh eggs or something like that too. Who knows? But it was a shift for me. Like, this might really be enjoyable. A regular noise like that, which most people would consider a nuisance noise. And again, that's all thoughts. So often you'll hear therapists or you'll see memes or whatever. Even actually, Eckhart Tolle talks about this. He calls it the pain body and what we make of the pain body. And he's really talking about changing our thoughts around the pain body, releasing the pain by changing our thoughts. I think there's somatic ways to do that too, meaning bodily ways, body work, yoga, breathing, dance, movement. There's ways to release pain. Crying. Crying is the body's way to release pain. So there's somatic ways to do it, as well as changing the thoughts. And that is harder the more difficult the situation. It's harder when you're going through grief for a relationship or for a death that has happened, maybe a long-time friendship that's ended, versus something that's a little bit easier for you to deal with. Like a barking dog, it impacted my life daily, for sure. But like, nobody had died, nobody had lost a limb, something like that. Like, no, it wasn't on that level until the dog died. And that was sad, but it wasn't my dog. So that's a little different, right? I can just feel compassion and sadness for the neighbor because I know what it's like to lose a dog. I know what it's like to have an old dog that has dementia. The cat, actually, who's 16 now, Hazel, has dementia. And she'll do her little loops around the house and she'll stare at us through the sliding glass door. There's a screened-in porch that she likes to go out there and hang out in the sun and just sit. But she also just likes to stare at us. Like, she doesn't want to come in the house. She just wants to stare at us through the sliding glass door. And it's like, oh, that's a kitty dementia. You know, she does her little loops. I know it'll be sad when the cat passes away eventually. I've been through that myself multiple times. But it's like a stat kind of process is how I see it. The harder the situation, the more grief involved in the situation, the harder it is to change those thoughts and latch onto a thought that's going to help you through it. Or find a thought that's going to help you through a situation that's going on. The barking dog was a situation that would happen daily. And you may have a daily situation that you're dealing with. And what can you tell yourself about it? I can get through this. Things are going to get better eventually. Something will change. All right, everyone. Just a few thoughts about how our thoughts can affect how we handle a situation, what we think about the situation, how we feel about the situation. Hope you're healthy and safe. Peace. I hope you truly enjoyed today's episode. I work all over the world doing hypnosis, so if you're interested in working with me, please schedule a free consultation over at my website, drlizhypnosis.com, and we'll see what your goals are and if I can be of service to you in helping you reach them. Finally, if you like today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast or tell a friend. That way, more and more people learn about the power of hypnosis. This podcast is not mental health treatment, nor should it replace mental health treatment. If you need therapy or hypnotherapy, please seek treatment from a trained professional, such as myself. Have a wonderful week. Peace.